Anyway, back at Lake Forest, he heard a call from God as he walked across campus one day. I want you to become a minister. It was just that clear. It was so clear he was irritated by it. He couldn't believe it, and he wanted nothing to do with it. In fact, when he talked about it, he often made it sound like he was just disgusted with the idea of going into the ministry. But when that sense of call persisted for several days, he finally gave in and transferred to Elon College, tiny little college, which was affiliated with his denomination, the Congregational Christian Church, which was one of the forerunners of the United Church of Christ, our denomination. And that was one of the pivotal moments in his life. Another pivotal moment was meeting the beautiful, smart, and strong Glendon Parrish, who we know as Glendon Lackey, in church, and eventually marrying her in 1949. Glendon was the great love of John's life. For 69 years, she was his friend, confidant, pillar of support, very honest critic. John would say too honest sometimes. Travel companion and partner in all things. They continued to live at Elon College while Glendon finished her degree and John began work on a Master of Divinity degree at Duke University. That's when things really began to shift in his heart and mind. The daily rides to divinity school with fellow students became daily debates in which John found his racism and other worldviews challenged. But in Greek class, he heard this word. I bet you can't guess what it is. Agape, which spoke of a divine love toward all people, regardless of who they might be. Then in the writing of the theologian Paul Tillich, his concept of God was broadened and deepened with images like the ground of being and the notion of God's radical grace, a grace that offers us the courage to accept ourselves fully, even when we see ourselves as fully unacceptable. John went on to serve as the pastor to 5 different churches: Apples Chapel near Greensboro, North Carolina, where he introduced pledging, taught them principles of stewardship, and led them through the building of a Sunday school building. Parkway UCC in Winston-Salem, where they relocated the church and built a striking sanctuary which they still use to this day. It was at Parkway where John began to take on social justice issues from the pulpit and organized interracial church gatherings to address racism during the Civil Rights Movement. Then Bayview UCC in Norfolk, Virginia, where he often preached about civil rights and against the Vietnam War in a church attended by many Navy personnel. After one particularly rousing sermon, a crowd of Navy men and their families got up in disgust and walked out of the church and down the street to a nearby Methodist church. Sounds like it was a planned protest to me. That's what happened. Community UCC in Raleigh, North Carolina was his 4th congregation, which became a leading church in the area on issues of civil rights and social justice. Susan and Rosemary have strong memories of being with him in a major protest march when Angela Davis came to town in support of the Wilmington 10. Rosemary even got to meet Ralph Abernathy that day.
Didn't know who he was.
She didn't know at the time. And by the way, the UCC, our denomination, sent Reverend Benjamin Chavis to organize on behalf of the Wilmington 10 at that time. And the charges for the Wilmington 10 were eventually overturned in a suit brought by the UCC and Chavis. This congregation, Church of the Savior, was John's last, and I think it's really fair to say his favorite. At least that's what he always told me. So. Here he served in the community in many roles, too many to name: the Knoxville Ministerial Association, A Better Tomorrow, similar to Justice Knox, the Knoxville Interfaith Ecology Group, the Association for Christian Denominational Leadership, the National Conference of Christians and Jews, and so on. As you know, he led this church to welcome refugee families, to meet with the mosque, the synagogue, and African-American churches, especially Harold Middlebrooks Canaan Baptist Church, with whom this congregation had an ongoing relationship, to welcome the predominantly gay Metropolitan Community Church of Knoxville here, despite opposition within and beyond the congregation, and to be a staunch advocate for LGBT rights, for peace, and for economic justice. This, of course, is just a bare thumbnail sketch of a remarkable, in many ways, improbable life and ministry, which included over 50 years of service in the UCC, 16 as a pastor here, and another 25 as our pastor emeritus, Just remarkable.